What is up, guys? Delboy here, bringing you another episode of my Prospect Watch series where we cover prospects from around the globe, varying from elite level amateurs who have just turned pro or hidden gems that maybe not too many people are aware of. Today we are talking about a son of a legend, and his name is Tszyu. He is the son of Kostya. Now, Tszyu is obviously a big name in Russian boxing. Tszyu had a lot of success at super lightweight from the mid-90s basically until the mid-2000s. He had multiple world title fights, he was a unified champion, and all in all, he was an excellent fighter. But today we talk about his son, Tszyu. Now, I saw Tszyu a couple of years ago when he made his debut, and at the time, I've got to say, I didn't really think anything of him. From what I saw, I didn't really see anything to get excited about, and it just left me with the impression of, oh, another son trying to piggyback off his father's name. Tszyu didn't really have an extensive amateur background. He had about 30 fights, and I kind of just got the impression he was trying to piggyback off his father's name. However, I've recently gone back and looked at Tszyu's more recent fights, and I've got to say, from that pro debut, he has come on a long way. He's a lot more polished these days, still got a long way to go, but he's made significant improvements since that pro debut in December 2016. Like I said, Tszyu had a very limited amateur background, and he's only 24, so there's no need to rush him. I still feel he needs time to develop, but like I said, he has come on a long way since that pro debut, and there's a lot to like about Tszyu. The first thing that's got to be noted, if you've seen his father fight, you can really see the implementation of his father. His father has obviously had a big hand in his development because the similarities between the two in how they fight is eerily similar. The way he holds his hands up is reminiscent of his father, the way he throws that power jab is reminiscent of his father, and his style in general is reminiscent of his father's. Lovely right hand from Tszyu, and it carries a lot of power. He relies on timing and he likes to keep distance. He has that Eastern European style that Kostya had. His main game is to keep range and keep you at the end of his punches. He likes to keep you at the end of his jab. He'll pick up the points, and when you make mistakes, he will try and capitalise with that right hand, and that right hand carries power, like I said. And one thing I've noticed from Tszyu is when he has had opponents hurt, I actually think he does a good job of not smothering his work and getting too overexcited. He appears to have good finishing instincts, he'll give himself room to punch, and if he has you hurt to the head, he won't continue and purely look for the head again. He will actually change things up, and he'll look for a hook downstairs to lower his opponent's guard and create openings for himself to find that finishing punch. I like his finishing instincts also, so that's another good thing about Tszyu. Another thing I like about Tszyu, from what I see, he takes the sport very seriously. He's really dedicated. You see a lot of sons of former fighters who are either just, they don't have the same hunger their fathers did because they've been brought up in a rich household, or even if they do have the right dedication, they may not have the right mindset for it. I mean, look at Chris Eubank Jr. The guy is clearly dedicated. He clearly takes boxing serious in terms of putting in the effort, but his mindset is all wrong. He's very arrogant, and he cuts his nose off to spite his face, and that's harmed his career. And for the most part, sons of former fighters, their careers don't pan out the way we'd like them to. But Tszyu, his head appears to be screwed on right. He appears to be a hard worker. He keeps himself in very good shape, and it looks like he's got a lot of hunger for this game. It's nice to see he takes boxing seriously, and it's not a meal ticket for him, because when he turned pro, that's what I was worried about. But from seeing him since, it's obvious that's not the case. It's obvious he takes this game very seriously. So there is a lot to like about Tszyu, you know, he's young, he's hungry, he's keen to improve, and his head is screwed on right. So they are the positives. I do have a few reservations on Tszyu. The first being is his size. Now Tszyu is a super welterweight. Tszyu is 5'8" with a 72-inch reach. Super welterweight contains a lot of giants, you know, guys like Jamel Charlo, Jarrett Hurd, Jaime Munguia. These guys are a lot bigger than Tszyu. How is Tszyu, who is 5'8" with a 72-inch reach, going to compete with guys like that? Because, like I said, he's a guy who likes to be on the outside. He's a guy who likes to judge distance, use that jab, and look for that long right hand. Can he pull that style off when he will be dwarfed in height and reach by a few fighters in this division? It's possible, but it makes it that much harder. So Tszyu's size does concern me a bit. He would be a really big welterweight. Can he make welterweight? I'm kind of doubtful because Tszyu is kind of stocky. He's a muscular guy, so I don't think there's too much weight to take off. So I can't see him going down to welterweight, so I think he's stuck at super welterweight. So I do think it's going to be interesting to see how he handles these size discrepancies, because at some point he will need to face that in this division. So that's something to look out for. Another area where I'm a bit concerned is the matchmaking for Tszyu. Tszyu is based in Australia, and at times it must be hard to get opponents to come over. So what type of quality are they going to feed Tszyu? Is he going to get the right development fights, or is he going to get a bunch of knockover jobs? When you look at Tszyu's resume so far, the best name on his resume was the guy he fought in his last fight, which was his 12th fight, and he fought a guy called Denton Vassell. Now Denton Vassell will be familiar with UK boxing fans. Denton Vassell was a Commonwealth champion at welterweight, and he was pretty good domestically a few years ago. But it's safe to say he's seen better days. These days he's well past it, and Tszyu knocked Denton Vassell out in a couple of rounds, and that is Tszyu's best opponent to date. Now Tszyu dealt with him how he should do, but I am a bit concerned about the matchmaking from here on out. I think it's going to be tough to get the right guys to fight Tszyu when he's based in Australia, because guys from Europe, guys from the USA are going to want a lot of money to travel all that way to fight a young dangerous prospect. They're going to want to get paid, and ultimately most guys will price themselves out fighting Tszyu. So in terms of Tszyu getting the right matches at the right time, I am a little bit worried. However, you know, there's still a couple of names out there he could fight. One name that springs to mind is Michael Zarafa. Maybe not in his next fight, but in a couple of fights' time, I think that would be a good step up for Tszyu. Michael Zarafa is a tough guy who has decent power. He comes to fight. I think that could be a good test for Tszyu, and I would like to see that maybe middle of this year. I think that would be a good step for him. But other than that, you know, there's not too much quality there. I know Jeff Horn's team are talking about fighting Tszyu, but if I'm Tszyu, I would leave that for now. I would want to develop. I would want to get a few more fights under my belt. Jeff Horn is no like all-time great or anything, but he's still experienced. He's still fought at a much higher level than Tszyu. So if I was him, I would leave that fight for now. But yeah, I am worried about the matchmaking for Tszyu. And in terms of the technical side of things, Tszyu does the basics well. Like I said, got a really nice jab that he varies from body to head. It's a powerful jab. He's got a good right hand. He shows good timing, good power. He's strong physically. But he does have a few flaws. For example, he's got a habit of kind of leaving his chin out in the air, and he backs up with his hands down. He'll kind of lean back to avoid punches, but his chin will still be in the air and his hands will be low, and at a higher level that sort of flaw could be exposed. But in terms of Tszyu's technical flaws, I'm not too worried, mainly because of the level of improvement he's shown already, so I'm sure he's going to iron these things out as he has more fights. So overall, I think Tszyu is a good prospect. Am I saying he's going to be a world champion? I'm not saying that at all, but he's worth a watch. he's worth keeping your eye on. You know, a bit of a dark horse, maybe a bit of an unfavoured prospect, but I believe there is talent there. And if he's matched correctly and he gets the right fights at the right time, I think this guy can have a good career, to be honest. Share your thoughts below. Peace.